So, Steve, picture the scene. You are Cherie in this scenario. You've been doing God knows what in the bedroom. Nothing implied there. You come through from the bedroom, you walk through the corridor, and you open the door to the living room. In the living room, there I'm sat. I'm sat at the sofa of the living room. The back of my laptop, which is on my lap, is facing you, so you can't see what's on the screen. But all you can see is the look of childish glee on my face, the joy that a man gets when he's only really up to one activity. And you say to me, Tim, what the fuck have I just caught you doing? And I say to you, Cherie, my love, it's not what it looks like. And then, as Cherie, you storm across the room at me, you grab my laptop, spin it round, expecting to see pornography, but in fact you see the Ducati team launch. As you can imagine, Cherie thinks I'm a twat, and she very quickly gave me back my computer and just left the room, and I haven't spoken to her since. So I was very much enjoying the Ducati team launch earlier. I wasn't masturbating as implied, but Cherie did think I was, bless her. So that was fun. How's your day been?
How's my day? What you're trying to say there is you quickly switched browsers.
Steve, you saw straight through me. Luckily, Cherie did not see straight through me as easily as you did. So yeah, that's me, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Probably not as happy as you were earlier when you got nearly caught doing something you shouldn't.
I will not either confirm nor deny I was up to what you think I was up to. I'm just going to stick with the story that I was watching the Ducati team launch, and there's nothing quite like Jack Miller in leather, is there? Oof.
I was thinking that. Although Pecco looks good in his red leather.
I think Pecco actually looks a lot better than Miller in red leather. I think Miller always has a bit of a belly. It doesn't matter how fit or how toned he is. As soon as you put Jack Miller in leathers, he just gets a belly out of nowhere. He just has this like Jorge Lorenzo beer belly appear. It's very strange, but
It is. I've noticed that as well. That'll be too many burgers on that Barbie.
That's exactly what it'll be. Too much burgers and good living.
Yeah. But no, I've had a good day. We've had a bit of snow down here. We took the boys sledging, which was nice.
Yeah, well, you've got quite a good bit of snow, haven't you?
We have, actually. We never really get snow in this part of Norfolk. Because we stick out. We jut. If anyone Googles the UK, we jut out on the side. So we really don't get any weather. We have to have like a good bit of Arctic wind come down. And which is what we had. So it brought with it a lot of snow drifts, a lot of blocked roads, a lot of cars stuck in the road, and some ample sledging opportunities. So we partook in a bit of that earlier. Boys loved it. Brody, not so much. He doesn't really have that excited face yet.
I was going to say, he's still a bit little, isn't he? He's probably just a bit confused as this white cold stuff that's appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think he was more confused when I sat him on the sledge and gave him a push.
To be fair, if I didn't know what was going on, actually, I've never really thought about this before. But if I'm looking at my father as the person I trust most in this world, and he's taken me out in the cold, which I'm not very happy about anyway. It's a bit white and weird out here. And then he puts me on a plastic tea tray, essentially, and just throws me down a slope. I would be raging.
He was pretty raging. I will send you the video. But we got off the stage at the bottom, and I sort of turned to look at him and see his rosy red cheeks, and he just gives me that twat.
Not even a smile.
Not even a smile, no. Not even a smile. But no, we had a good day, built the snowman, which is now wonky. Yeah, that's it, really.
That's good stuff. I'm quite envious, man. Like, I'm not as far north as you can get in the UK, but like pretty far north, all things considered. And we've just had nothing but like blue skies and bright sunshine. I'm actually quite jealous of the amount of snow you guys have got.
Yeah, we've got a fair splatter, and in fact, it's snowing right now. So hopefully, we're going to wake up to a bit more sledging tomorrow.
Oh, as a result, happy days. Maybe Brody will be used to it this time. He's not going to be quite so shocked by the whole scenario.
No, I'm leaving them two here. I'm going on my own. Daddy wants to go this time.
That's it. You'll be going sledding. I'll be here pretending to watch the Ducati team launch. It's man time. That's what we call that, Steve.
It is man time. That's what we have here. Bit of man time. Oh dear.
Right, shall we dive into the show anyway before we start talking a bit too much about our man time, eh?
Let's do that because we're going to get ourselves in trouble.
Sure, he's already going to listen to this intro and be like, what the fuck have you been saying about me? Right, anyway, let's go for it. I'm Tim, he's Steve, and this is For the Love of MotoGP. So it's been quite a good week, I think, in MotoGP news generally. There's been some pretty terrible things occurring, but in the grand scheme of this season as a whole, we've had no race cancellations yet. No new ones anyway this week. And we've had 2 whole livery launches from teams.
It's been quite a good week, really, hasn't it? You know, every day I wake up and I'm just waiting for that day we get told we're going to lose Qatar or we've lost another round, something's been postponed, but no, nothing. And we're all of a sudden we're now getting the snippets of like real dangling carrots in front of us. We're getting the bikes being unveiled. You know, we saw the Aventia boys, Ducati today, and we've got a whole host this weekend. I think we've got Suzuki. I forget when the Yamaha one is, but they're all in the next week
or something. They're all pretty soon, aren't they? I imagine over the next 2 weeks of shows, we will have covered all of the team launches, I think.
Yeah, I'm seeing sort of social media posts from like a Lace. They're going to do the Aprilia. KTM put out a really nice picture earlier of their bike, just sort of backlit.
I missed this. Could you see any details?
No, really. Let me send it to you now. I will send you the picture. I'll have to send it to you on your phone, I do believe.
Oh, I won't get that till after we're recording then, but that's fine. We'll deal with that later.
And
what did you think of the team launch liveries we've got so far?
The Ducati one, I'm a mixed bag on this. I was last year. I prefer this one to last year's livery. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I was last year. I am this year. I don't know. I don't really know why it doesn't jump off the page at me. I never have done. It's just that thing. I just don't really find it that appealing, but I don't dislike it at the same time.
So I think last year, I remember us saying actually at the time that when Ducati first came out with that, like the proper red rocket as it was, it looked great that first year. And then the next year, with it being solid red, it kind of got a bit boring. It got very boring very quickly. And I was very quickly starting to miss the white, the red and white of the earlier Ducatis. Because you've got to think, we go back to, I don't know, 2014, 2015, maybe even 2016. There was a lot of white on that bike. It wasn't just red and black. And at the time, I remember saying to you that I sort of really wanted to see just an old school red Ducati because I didn't like all the white. And then when we got the red Ducati, I'm already kind of a bit bored of it and I kind of want the white back again.
Yeah, it's odd you should say that because on Instagram, Ducati did a poll the other day and had like from 2010 all their bikes up and asking everyone which one you prefer. And looking through them, I preferred the white as well.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think the Ducati as a whole package this year, the GP21 looks great. I think the aero looks amazing. I like kind of the carbon checkerboard inside the aero. I think looks really cool. And I like the fact that and I'm sure they haven't ditched Mission Winnow. I'm sure they're still getting all that Marlboro money somewhere. But I like the fact that dodgy Mission Winnow sponsor is no longer on the bike, and it's now the Lenovo sponsor.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this just the whole way the bike looks better. There are a few changes. Just looking at a picture of it now, there's some like aero changes, like you say, on the nose cone, and the seat unit's a little bit different. The swinging arm looks a bit different. Yeah,
it's a very aggressive looking machine as well, isn't it? I think it looks nice. I think as a whole, I think the Ducati looks nice. And I don't want to be that dick that's like, well, it looks fast, but it does look angry. It looks like a quick machine. And I know that's a ridiculous thing to say for motorbike racing because who really gives a flying fuck what it looks like? It really doesn't make that much difference.
But
but it does look nice.
It does. I know exactly what you mean. It does look aggressive.
Yeah.
I think any bike that's got like a pointy nose cone looks aggressive. I don't know why. We've seen some in the past that are like quite bulbous, rounded front ends, quite squat at the back.
Yeah.
And they just don't. They look a bit flumpy, a bit like you're woken up the morning after a good sesh, 10 pints and a curry later, and you feel a bit bloated, and you're not going to be that quick. Yeah. But these guys, this does look really, really good.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot, actually, looking at it now, straight up, of the old 916 Infostrada Ducati livery back in World Superbikes.
I honestly don't know what you're talking about, so I'm just gonna have to agree with you on that
one. It's similar. It's just the way it's sort of set up. It does look similar. Obviously, no aero. Yeah, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence with the livery.
Okay, I'm now looking at the 916, and this is an old school Ducati, isn't it?
If you find the Infostrada one, that is the original incarnation. 3-spoke back wheel.
Oh, a 3-spoke back wheel. Is that what I'm looking for? I've got the 5-spoke back wheels here. Infostrada.
I'm pretty sure that's the 996.
916. I got a 916 with a 5-spoke wheel here. They all seem to have 5 spokes.
That might just be the road bike then. I'm thinking of. I'm trying to think.
Oh, I've got one here. It's a road going bike though. It's got headlights and a number plate, but it's got the 3-spoke wheel.
Right. Yeah.
I imagine that's heavy, isn't it? A 3-spoke rear wheel. I imagine that's really, really heavy, which is why it's not on the race bikes.
Yeah, it might be why they changed it a little bit. Yeah, that is. I know, I've got one.
You got one.
Yeah.
Right, anyway, this isn't a good show of just us looking at pictures of Ducati, Steve. So let's move on to the other Ducati team, shall we? Avintia, we've obviously seen their team launch.
We did.
Now, I actually think from what you've told me, I haven't given you my opinion on these bikes, and I think our opinions differ quite strongly about these.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm going to let you go first, because you've already told me your opinion, and then I'm going to fire mine out at you.
Righty-ho.
So what do you think about the Avintia team bikes, Steve?
I prefer Pecco's. I think Pecco's bike looks... not Pecco's, Marini, sorry.
Marini. I was going to say, I was like, Pecco's? Yeah. I was like, fuck. I thought I had a different opinion, but I might be thinking of a different team altogether now.
You put that... I wish we were recording that. I've never seen you put a can of beer down so quick. Tim's face on the screen just went, what? Fuck? What?
Yeah, I was very confused for a moment, Steve. I didn't really know what was going on.
No, sorry. The VR46 racing team bike of Luca Marini, I think, looks insane. It looks amazing. I still like Pecco's Avintia sponsored Ducati as well. I actually think that Avintia bike looks better liveried than the factory UK.
Okay, and when we say Pecco here, do you mean Bagnaia, who's on the factory Ducati, or do you mean Bastianini, who is on the other Avintia bike? Because I'm a bit confused.
Bagnaia, sorry. I get my riders mixed up.
Okay, that's fine. I got very lost for a moment. Because obviously Bagnaia is riding for the factory squad. I thought you were getting Bagnaia and Bastianini confused, and that confused me.
No, Bagnaia.
Okay, cool. So I actually think that that Bastianini's Avintia bike, the actual Avintia machine, looks incredible. I think that's the best looking Avintia machine I've ever seen. I kind of think Marini's VR46 Ducati is just a little bit... Well, it's just a VR46 bike. It's like they've literally just pulled the livery off his Moto2 machine and stuck it onto a MotoGP machine. And I'm kind of not that excited about it. I think it might be fun to see it around the track. I think it'll be fun to see the VR46 livery and leathers on the MotoGP grid. But I actually don't think it looks that good. I think the Avintia one looks amazing.
It's going to get confusing talking about these. I don't know. I just, with the shape of the Ducati, I just like the way the VR46 logos and everything, and the color. I like the color of it on that bike.
Yeah, I think it's the colour that I'm not really digging. I don't think the colour, in like, obviously, we agree to disagree. These things are subjective. But I don't think the colour really works that well. And I think it's just because I'm a bit bored of the VR46 livery. It's sort of been the same for the whole
It's
time.
not changed at all, has it, really?
No, well, it changed from those early Moto3 bikes. They were very simple compared to what we've got now. But yeah, I don't know. It just looks like last year's Moto2 machine. Whereas the Avintia one, because it's such a change, looks like a very different machine again. I really like the way they've done it. And what I think I quite like about the Avintia one is that they've clearly got no sponsors. So they can just afford to have the entire side of the bike with Avintia. So it's actually probably a bad financial move for them, but it looks nice for the eye, at least to my eye. Everyone else might really disagree here.
Yeah, it's really awkward because I'm getting confused the fact that they're in the same team.
Yeah.
That's putting me off a swing all the time. I still think of the VR46 team as a separate team. And I look at that and I think, right, that's one team. The Avintia is over here. You know, I've got to keep reminding myself they're still basically Avintia Esperama racing team.
Yeah, what are they now? Are they Avintia? Are they a Sponsorama? Because last year we were all told to refer to them as a Sponsorama, so we kind of all did.
Yeah.
And now this year everyone's referring to them as Avintia again. I don't actually know what they're on the official the website as.
On the official website that I've got up in front of me is Avintia Esperama Racing.
Avintia Sponsorama Racing. Okay, so it's the team Avintia or Avintia the sponsor? I get very confused with this. It's Lenovo Ducati, isn't it? The new squad. I know it's Ducati Lenovo.
Yeah.
I'm over it, Steve. I don't know what we're calling them. I'm going with Avintia, and I'm going to stick with it for the year. Consistency. If you're wrong, that's okay, but be consistently wrong. So I'm going with Avintia.
It's weird, isn't it? If both bikes were the same, it's the whole VR46 thing that is screwing me up. Because it just looks so different. We're so used to look at the decays, the factory decays. They're similar. They're the same.
Yeah,
it's the factory decay. You know, this is the whatever it is, Avintia, Esperada. Who cares? They should be the same color.
Yeah. In fact, the only team that's different to that is LCR, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, and that's only because one guy. I mean, it's the same thing essentially. One guy's brought in
his own sponsor,
a different. Yeah, which Marini has. He's got his half brother's backing, so he's brought that in. Yeah, I was quite shocked when looking at the Avintia, should we say, that the Avintia logo takes up so much of the bike. Because like you, I was figuring they were gone and we were going to see Esperama down the side or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole thing is becoming a bit confusing, and I think it's sort of. Don't get me wrong, I'm still glad to see Avintia there, but we were, like you say, we were told it's gone, and all of a sudden it's come back.
Yeah,
what is it?
I'm a bit confused. I mean, I think this conversation is only going to matter for this year, and then after that, the whole squad's going to be the VR46 squad, probably not running Ducatis at that point. So it's kind of one of those weird things that we're just going to trip over. We're going to spend the entire year getting it wrong, Steve, and I'm going to consistently call them Avintia, and I don't care what anyone else says.
Yeah, I think we're just going to do that. I'm going to probably go down the same line. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get the riders mixed up as well. So that's going to take some getting used to. Once they get on track, it'll be easier. But when we're getting all the unveilings, it's like, oh my god, who's this? Who's that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a bit confusing. I've got the MotoGP website open in front of me, and I'm still a bit confused that I've got Jack Miller and Pecco Bagnaia both completely in red. So I think it's going to take me, and Alex Marquez as well isn't going to be on a Repsol this year. It's quite confusing. It's going to take me a couple of races to wrap my head around all the rider changes this year.
Yeah, it's taken me longer than what I thought it would to get used to it. I keep looking at it. I'm like, oh Christ, who's this? Who's that? You know, for some bizarre reason, I've got a problem with Pecco, Bastianini, and Bagnaia.
I thought you had an issue earlier, and I was like, I don't know if Steve knows which one he's talking about at the moment.
In my head, I could picture it completely, but then I get the names wrong. I was like, fuck. I did it earlier when I was talking to Sarah. I was like making some notes and talking about it. I was like, hang on, I've just gone completely down the wrong road here.
Yeah, am I talking about the 2019 Moto2 champ or no, the 2018? I fucked it now. The 2018 Moto2 champ or the 2020 Moto2 champ?
It's like, come on, get your head around it, for Christ's sake. I'll get there one day. I did it last year as well. Like, one day I'll get my head around this, and I'm not the only one. There's some pros out there that I've listened to that got it wrong as well. So that makes me feel better.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it, mate. Everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
Right, shall we keep going? Let's go on to. We've got a couple of sad bits of news. So before we hit those, let's just have a brief discussion about the latest social media debate as to whether or not Johan Mir should be running the number 1 or the number 36 plate this year.
What do you think? You take the lead on this one.
So it's interesting because I 100% understand why everyone will want to run their own number. It's a branding exercise. Doesn't matter what we say about this. Motorcycle racing is branding exercise for the riders, for the manufacturers, for the teams. It's all a branding exercise. So I can understand why people run their own numbers. It makes sense. But I do love seeing a number 1 bike on the grid. And it's just something nice to see. I enjoy seeing it. I liked seeing Casey Stoner run it. I liked it the year Lorenzo ran it. Have we seen anyone else do it? Nicky Hayden did it in 2008. He would have run it, wouldn't he? Yes, he would have run it in 2008. But I wasn't watching it then. So
no. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's been anyone since Lorenzo. I don't think there has.
Well, it would have been Stoner the following year would have run it. Stoner would have run it in 2012 for winning in 2011, but no one's run it since then. The thing, if it was me, I wouldn't run the number 1 plate because part of me thinks you look like a twat if you don't then back it up with another win. And I don't want to be rolling around in 4th place on the number 1 machine. You got to either commit to doing like the Mick Doohan, like boom, I'm just going to run the number 1 for 5 years on the trot. Or, and I mean, everyone wants to do that, obviously, but not many people can do that. So there's a number of reasons I can see why they wouldn't run the number 1, but I would like to see it on the grid.
Yeah. I think it's rider's preference, and yes, you're right. It's a massive marketing thing with your own number. But we saw Lorenzo come up with that really nice JL number 1, which looked bloody awesome.
Yeah, and that was great. That's the livery he ran in 2011, and that was the year I first started watching MotoGP. And so I have a very nice memory of that, and I love it. It's one of my favourite numbers ever.
Yeah, I like it. I think if you're a champion, yes, you get given the choice. But if you're number 1, I think you should display it. Even if, you can't back it up. Like, Mir's definitely not favourite this year. He's the person to beat because he is number 1. But I would like to see it back on the grid. I'm personally a fan of seeing the number 1 plate on the champion's bike. I just like it. Whether they could make something out of his number to sort of construct a 1 or something, I don't know. But I personally like seeing it on the grid, and I wish he would do it this year.
Yeah, I'm with you completely. I do have a question for you, actually, that I didn't put in the show notes. It's literally just based on something you just said. If Mir isn't the favourite this year, who is?
I would go, personally, with Frankie.
You think Morbidelli's the favourite?
I would say so. I mean, I can't see anyone else posing that much of a threat, although we said that about Mir last year.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just not sure I trust the Yamaha enough for any of the Yamahas to be a threat.
If he can carry on his form from last year towards the end of the season.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at him. He got, smashed out 3 wins on the bounce or something, didn't he?
If he can follow that kind of form, he's golden. That's his. Quartararo was blowing hot and coals and, has now moved teams. Rossi has just gone off the boil and moved teams. Miller's moved teams. Bagnaia's moved teams. There's a lot of newcomers. There's a lot of rookies. Rins is my other bet. It'll be Morbidelli or Rins this year, I think.
Yeah, I would be hedging towards Rins or Mir, I think. And I just said Frankie won 3 on the bounce. He didn't win 3 on the bounce, but he did have a good tear at the end of the season.
I would a right old ramp.
I would think it's one of the Suzukis, man. I do think it's Mir or Rins, and My heart says Rins because I just quite like him, and I've sort of really liked his rise through Moto3. Yeah, that year is 2013, that battle with Miller
Something like
and
that, yeah.
Marquez, and then into Moto2. I did quite enjoy that, and I kind of feel a connection to him. That might have been 2014. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I do feel a connection to Rins for that reason, but my head kind of says, can he's fucked it last year. That was his perfect chance, And if Marquez comes back, that changes everything. But I do think it's the Suzuki again that are the favourites, because I don't think the Ducatis have got the consistency. I don't think the Yamahas have got the consistency. The only one that does is Frankie, and he's going to be on a 2-year-old machine. Maybe KTM will be the fly in the ointment. I can't see Repsol Honda with Pol. I think Pol might win a race, but I can't see him being a championship threat in his first year. If Marquez is back, that changes the playing field. But otherwise, I do think it's Suzuki still.
Yeah, that's a fair. It's really, really awkward. No one had a clue who was going to win it last year. I don't think anyone really has a clue who's going to win it this year. There was quite an interesting interview with Mir done earlier in the week, and he said the same thing. He's like, I'm not the favourite to win the championship, but I am the one to beat. So he's going to have more pressure hyped on in this year to back up what he did last year and defend that championship. We've seen Rins get spurred on by his results, and he said as well that a good team battle will spur him on. It's going to be. There's a lot of dynamics going on in the field this year, which is going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of little intermingled sort of battles going on between teammates and the rookies. Like you say, KTM. No one really knows what KTM is going to do this year because all of a sudden they've started to look really, really good. And then, like you say, Marquez, when the hell is he going to come back? What is he going to do when he gets back?
He feels a bit like the fly in the ointment, doesn't he? That Marquez could just come in and just scup at everything for everyone.
I would really love to see a stat on some bookies' websites of how many people are putting money on him now to come back and win the title this year.
Oh, I can't imagine there's many, can you?
People, I'm absolutely 100% positive people would do it.
I mean, if someone was to say to me, I'll give you 5-1 on Marquez winning the championship this year, I'd be like, right, obviously, yes, I'm going to take that because it's Marquez. And I feel like Marquez is the kind of guy that could miss 3 rounds and still come back and win it. Whether or not that's true after missing an entire year, I don't know, but I'd still chuck a tenner on it.
Yeah, I might have a cheeky pump myself, but there we go.
That's it. All I know is that coming into the start of the season, when the Fantasy League gets back up and running, Steve, I will be chucking both Suzukis, if I can afford them, into my squad.
Yes, I think there will be a lot of people doing that. And I'm just thinking about Fantasy League. Let's check that, because I don't think there's been any word yet on when they're firing that bad boy up this year.
No, I'm not sure. But while you're looking that up, Steve, we'll just have I guess send our thoughts, love and prayers to Fausto Grassini. The guy is still in hospital, making small steps towards recovery. He has been woken up out of his coma, medically induced coma, but he's still struggling. He's been in ICU for 6 weeks or something now, I think. So this is a proper fight with COVID. Like, this isn't the kind of Donald Trump, Boris Johnson COVIDs. This is a proper battle with COVID.
Bless him.
It's one of those, if it wasn't for medical intervention, he certainly wouldn't have got this far. And we just kind of, like I say, our thoughts, hopes and proverbial prayers are with him in making a really strong recovery in this time.
Definitely. Get well soon, buddy.
On to more not so great news then. Let's dive into this fire that's broken out, Steve. You sent me some footage of this from... Hang on, 2 seconds, mate. Bear with me. I've got someone coming in. Right, sorry about that, guys. Minor interruption. Being on the Isle of Skye means that we struggle to do shopping. So when a Tesco slot becomes available, you really have to jump on it. So that was Cherie coming through to inform me that within the household here, we've managed to secure a Tesco slot. very exciting. It means I will have more beer coming in, but that's not the important thing here. We were talking about the fire at Termas de Rio Hondo in Argentina. I honestly, I don't know a lot about this, Steve. I only know that there was kind of a big fire and the pictures don't look great, but you've done some more research on this, so I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what day it was, but news started to circulate that there was a fire at the track, and apparently it started in the pit boxes. What caused it, I don't know yet, but that soon spread to the VIP area and then the media centre.
And you'd imagine the track would be empty, right? There shouldn't be anything in the pit boxes.
Yeah, what caused it yet has not been announced or nothing's been said. But looking at the pictures of it today, it is not looking good.
No, it looks completely gutted, right?
Yeah, it looks absolutely destroyed. So, don't know. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. Financial markets are taking a big hit.
Yeah, and I imagine the track hasn't been used for its big international sports for a while. I imagine it's not made a lot of money in the last year. And, like when it comes to building a track is expensive to build and expensive to maintain, just the tarmac. But
yes,
you can't, like for a track that's potentially not had a race for the last year, can't afford to be dropping a few million on repairing the entire pit lane to be repaired. All the tarmac around that area is going to be fucked. They're going to have to tear all that up, rebuild it. The entire VIP area, there's a lot of money and a lot of work needs to go into this. And unless the track gets some help, I can't see it continuing, man.
No, I'm a little bit worried myself. That it's going to be a lot of money to put that right, which is a shame. I really don't want to see it go under or drop off the calendar because it is a really nice track. But I don't know. I really hope they've got some decent backing, some good insurance they can fall back on. With any luck, they could get it rebuilt to a decent standard as well, because it's got to meet the criteria that to bring the bigger races there.
Yeah, well, both Formula One and MotoGP go there, so it's an FIA Grade 1 and an FIM Grade 1 as well. So, it's one of the best tracks in the world for those reasons. I don't know, is it state sponsored? Do they get help from the Argentinian government?
I don't know. But if they got the backing of the MotoGP boards, the Formula One boards, I'm sure there'll be something there to help them out. Because, like you say, both race series go there. The Formula One alone is a massive draw for them. They won't want to lose that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think they'll be hopefully okay, and they can get the place rebuilt as soon as possible, as soon as humanly possible in this middle of this pandemic. So I don't know what the situation is like out there, and hopefully we will go back there next year.
Yes, fingers crossed, though. Fingers crossed. And our last little cheeky bit of news then, before we get on to the actual show then. It's not even news, is it? This is just you and I falling into rabbit holes of reading about motorbikes, really. You went in and had quite a dive into the oldest motorcycle manufacturer still producing motorcycles, didn't you?
I did, yeah. After Tim's nice little quirky snippet last week on Schindler. I was about to say Schindler's List, and I was like, no, we didn't talk about a movie.
Same guy, though, so, that was the point.
Yeah. I thought I'd be interested to see who is the oldest motorcycle manufacturer still producing motorcycles to this day. And it turns out it is Peugeot, who produced their first available motorcycle in 1898.
Isn't that fucking bonkers, man? 1898.
That's a long time ago, mate.
That's what, 123 years ago at this point?
Something like that, yeah. It is, I mean, they produce, scooters now?
Yeah, and I didn't actually realise that Peugeot Motorcycles is owned by Mahindra.
Yes, so I did read that. That took me, I was reading your Daimler bit there as well.
Oh, yeah.
Took me a little bit by surprise. I was like, did he? I thought it was Daimler. Yeah, I found that quite surprising. They're owned by Mahindra. I thought Mahindra just were a small little manufacturer on their own. I didn't realise. No,
Mahindra are pretty big because they make a Moto E car, not Moto E car, for fuck's sake, Tim. Formula E car as well. There is a Mahindra Formula E team. So, because when they pulled out of Moto 3, it was to focus their efforts onto they pulled out of Moto 3, not Formula 3. I'm getting very confused with my formulas and my motos here. They pulled out of Moto 3 to go to
that
Formula
show
E.
tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly. We haven't even got into the show yet, Steve. I've had a break to do my shopping. It's more than half an hour in. I'm plenty of beer in today, so it's certainly going to be one of those shows, I think. But I did dive into, after reading your fact about Peugeot, I was like, so Peugeot's still making motorbikes, right? So who made the first motorbike? And I had a bit of a dive as well and found out that Daimler, who own Mercedes-Benz today, they made the first production internal combustion motorcycle in 1885. Not the first ever motorcycle, though, depending on how you want to judge it. But a few years,
how you spin it, isn't it?
Exactly, because a few years prior to that, a fellow called Lucius Copeland made a steam-powered motorbike, and that went somewhere in the region of 8 miles an hour. So, you're not going to be breaking a TT lap record on that. No,
and you're going to have to stop to put water in it every now and again, aren't you?
Well, you're going to have to stop. You probably have to stop to put coal in more than anything. You can probably just pour the water in for while you're riding. You're only going 8 miles an hour.
That's a good point, actually. Maybe it only did 8 mile an hour because you had a bag on the coal on the back. You've got to shovel that in.
You got your coal trailer.
Yeah, he's towing that bugger behind him. What an effort. Legend. You imagine that effort. You get to work like, I'm fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
Shovel 200 kilos of coal on my way here.
But you're 3 days late, Steve. Like, it goes 8 miles an hour. Give the man a break.
Yeah, you're only coming 3 miles. You had to stop for coal and water. What do you want?
Yeah.
Imagine if that had taken off. Imagine if we lived in a world now where steam-powered motorcycles were the thing.
Well, you've got to think about it. Steam was the thing before the internal combustion engine, was it? There were steam cars, there were steam trains. Like, if internal combustion engines hadn't come around when they did, if they'd have come around 30, 40 years later, then yeah, we would have had steam-powered motorbikes. World War I would have been fought under steam power. Like, it's a weird thing to say, like, what would have happened if the internal combustion engine was just 50 years later?
Oh, it's a marvellous thing, the internal combustion engine. I love it.
It's amazing what you can do with some fossil fuels, eh?
Yeah. Hello, Gra. How you doing, girl?
Right, shall we dive... before we dive into the show, actually, Steve, let's... more into the show. Let's just have a quick discussion. We've decided to make for the love of MotoGP, Facebook community group. This is a place where we kind of want you guys to come and hang out with us and just talk motorbikes and MotoGP, and obviously fall off on massive tangents about steam-powered vehicles, because that's just the kind of shit we do. So you can search us on Facebook. At the moment, we've not got a lot of people in there, Steve, at the moment. There's 7 of us, and I think those 7 include you, me, both our girlfriends, the For the Love of MotoGP page, and then 2 listeners. So, if you guys want to come chat MotoGP with me, Steve, our girlfriends, the page, and 2 other listeners, come along to the Facebook group and let's grow it. Let's make a great community, because that's what this show's about. It's just about having fun. I get pissed. Steve's the sensible, sober one, and we just talk motorbikes. So come and do it with us. Come to our Facebook group. Search us. You'll find us. We're there.
Come and have a little chat. Keep it sensible. Keep it motorbike related, MotoGP related. But
it doesn't have to be all MotoGP related. Just don't try and sell us stuff unless it's MotoGP related. Yeah,
if you've got something signed, then, we might consider, I don't know if we consider buying it. It depends how authentic it is, And
how much it is, mate, because I ain't making a lot of money at the moment.
No, I ain't making a lot either. I need to get back to work, but I can't do that because I've got a poorly girlfriend.
Yes. But yes, come over, join us. You'll find us there, and it's just a place to hang out. So
yeah, get it going. Let's get a nice community going together. We can do discussions. Like, we'll get a race weekend going. It'd just be a fun thing to do.
Yeah, certainly. And I'll drop a link in the show notes as well.
Yeah, we can take the piss out of the last person in the fantasy league when we get it going, and just send criticism to the person in first as well.
Yeah. And
that kind of stuff.
And we can currently do that because the person who won our fantasy league has already joined the group. So
she has. She's there.
There we go. There's we can
no
trust
one's given
some
a shit
people to
yet.
be there with us, Steve.
I know, it's great. We'll get some more. I'm sure we'll get some more. It'd be nice to get some more in the fantasy league this year. If you've got people, friends who don't watch MotoGP, get them round, get them into it, subject them to that swirling vortex of light until they love it.
Right. So, Steve,
we better do.
We'll crack on with the show, mate. The pre-show ramble has lasted a whole 40 minutes today. So
Jesus.
Let us take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll dive into the career of Luca Marini so far, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, good plan. Time for a break. Right, so thank you for bearing with us, guys. Steve is staring out the window at the snow like a captivated kitten. But we are going to bring it back to the topic at hand, shall we say?
You actually scared the shit out of me then, because I was so mesmerised by the snow coming down outside. I hadn't realised we were on a little bit of a pause back into the show because we had a break, and then I was like, Tim started talking. I was like, shit.
Yeah, I was just doing the typical few seconds of silence, so I know where to cut and edit. And Steve just got lost looking at the snow. So
I was looking at my sledge, thinking, ooh, midnight glow stick sledging. Ooh.
Mate, you live on a hill as well, so you've only got to walk 20 minutes up the road, and you can sled back down it in 2.
My first thought was to sledge down this hill. Where I live is at the bottom of a very long hill, isn't it? It's quite a long, what are we talking, half a mile hill?
It's long enough that I once overtook a moped on a push bike cycling down towards your house.
It's pretty epic, this hill.
Yeah.
With some nice corners as well, I might add. My first thought, like this morning, I was like, we haven't got a sledge for the boys. I'm going to have to go get one. I could walk and get one and sledge back down this hill.
Oh, that would be great.
To which point I was very much shot down and told, no, don't be an idiot.
At least there's one sensible adult in your house, Steve.
There has to be. If she was the same as me, these boys would be screwed.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, today, the point of the show, and if you've got this far, you're around 45 minutes in, and you've already read the title, and you've already been screaming at your phone to be like, guys, hurry the fuck up. But we're here to talk about the career of Luca Marini. He is making it to the big time. He's breaking into the GP paddock this year. And just like Jorge Martin last week, we are here to discuss his career up until this point. So let's just dive straight into it. Luca Marini was born on the 10th of August 1997. That makes him 6 years younger than me. Not the 8 years that you originally wrote there, Steve. It's 6. And an unspeakable amount younger than yourself, as you also wrote in the notes. That's not just me being horrible about your age this time. It's also actually the same year that Valentino Rossi won his first 125 championship.
That's bad, isn't it? I read that as well. I forgot to write that bit in. I read it. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
True of it. And then I was like, fucking hell. That really makes me old, because I can remember watching that 125 victory.
Oh, there you go. See, you were watching Valentino Rossi win that title in the same year that Luca Marini was born. But the two are very connected. It's not just that that Marini was born in the same year that Rossi won his championship. They are actually maternal half-brothers. I mean, I think that must sort of suck. If I was Luca Marini and my brother was like the greatest of all time at something, there's no fucking way I'm going into that same career. With Alex Marquez and Marc Marquez, I can sort of understand. There's not enough years between them for you to look at him and go, do you know what? I'm not going to follow in his footsteps because he's too good. Luca Marini had plenty of time to watch how good Valentino was and still chose to follow him.
I did think he's that bit of sibling. There's sibling rivalry. And, Luca's got some big balls on him.
Quite.
To want to come into the same sport, because let's face it, everyone's going to compare you. They always will. Look at Alex Marquez and Marc Marquez, like you say. Everyone's always going to have that. Oh, he's not good as him. Your brother would have done this differently. jibe.
Yeah.
And like you said, he had plenty of time to look at Rossi and go, fuck's sake, tennis is good.
That's exactly
You
it.
know what I mean?
Because if you're the brother of Lewis Hamilton, I mean, Lewis Hamilton's brother is a race car driver, so that's a bad example. But if you were the brother of Roger Federer, you're probably not going to go, and young enough that this is the age gap here, you're not going to go into, it's almost 20 years between them actually, it's quite a big age gap, but you're not going to go into that sport, you're not going to go into tennis if your brother's Federer. Nowadays, you're not going to go into racing, car racing, if your brother's Lewis Hamilton. You're not going to go into golf if it's Tiger Woods. You're not going to go into basketball if it's Kobe Bryant. You're just not going to do these things. You go and forge your own path. But a part of me sort of thinks, good on you for trying here. Like, if you just get one MotoGP World Championship, if you just get a race win under your belt, you've kind of done better than anyone expected of you.
But, has Luca been a very smart boy? Because he's landed himself a ride in a certain team, owned by a certain person who is very close to him, who is probably not far from retiring, who is going to be backing you in your corner.
I mean, that's a very good point. And as we'll see through this show, he certainly had not even in my opinion, in many people's opinion, and certainly in my opinion a few years ago, has certainly had a leg up from being who he is. And it's not to say he's not talented, because he's still much, much better on a motorcycle than I could ever dream to be, or than 99.9% of the world's population could ever dream to be. But I do think he's had a small helping hand to get there. That's not taking anything away. I just think that's kind of putting it out there.
There's always going to be a little bit of help come your way, be it either for advice or a little bit of financial help. I'm sure the stipulations in place Luca has had to meet to get these little helping hands, shall we say. But I personally think he's been a very clever boy and has set himself up nicely for the future.
Can you imagine if he does really badly and Valentino has to fire him next year?
That would be awkward. Can you imagine that at the Christmas table? Oof.
Yeah, if you're Valentino, you're like, I'm going around Dad's house for dinner. I'm not dealing with this.
You have that.
Yeah.
I'm not getting involved. I think he's been a very clever boy, and we will see what pans out this year, what he can do.
We certainly will. So he's been riding motorbikes from the age of 5, and as you'd expect from anyone that is coming into MotoGP, he's just won everything he's touched on his way up into the Grand Prix classes. Until he reached the international stage, which again is quite normal. We've discussed this a lot. Is people win everything, they hit the international stage, and they're like, "Whoa, everyone here is fast."
Yeah,
and actually,
really good.
Yeah, that's it. And until he hit the international stage, actually, he wasn't known as Rossi's brother, was he? He was kind of, it was never hidden, but it was never really out there. He was just Luca Marini. So while he was winning domestic championships and stuff and doing very well on mini bikes and things, he wasn't Rossi's brother. He was just Luca Marini, which is a huge advantage, I think.
That is, yeah. All of a sudden, we've seen him suddenly have become a full-time racer. And the closer his path has taken him down the same path as Rossi, and all of a sudden that is going to come to the surface who he is. And it's inevitable that people are going to put the two together and start shining lights between one and the other. But I think it was probably more of an advantage when he was younger and he wasn't known. Because can you imagine turning up to your first little race? Oh, you're Rossi's brother, and getting it instantly.
It would be terrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah, at that age. If he doesn't come out and just start emulating his brother's results, and probably even bettering them, people are just going to look at you and go, well, you're not your brother. You're shit. Get out of here. And at that age, you're very impressionable. And I would have just walked.
Yeah.
And I'd have gone like, tennis is good.
Mm-hmm. And I think actually, if I was his mum or his dad, obviously, who is different to Rossi's dad, but either way, I would have been like, let's try and push you in a different career plan because I'm not happy with this one.
No, but good on him for letting him follow his dreams. He's there now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's made it to MotoGP, hasn't he? So he's doing something right. So 2013, we saw Marini start in the Italian CIV Moto3 Championship. He finished the season in fourth place, scoring 6 podiums across the year. He also, during that year, wildcarded twice in the Spanish CEV Moto3 Championship, and that was for the FTR Honda squad. And he managed to finish 7th and 14th. So considering it was only 2 races, and you would argue that, say, that CEV is a step up from CIV, that's not a bad result. You don't know your competition, you don't know the bike, you don't know the team. So that's a good step into that. And he did compete in one Moto3 Grand Prix, which was at Misano, but he scored a DNF in that race. So, it's kind of the typical first step, isn't it, you're expecting from most riders at this point.
All things considered, as like a first year full time, should we say, not bad.
No, it's not bad at all, is it? No.
Boy's got a lot to hold his head up high for that year, and he goes on to a lot better things. Certainly.
So 2014 sees him riding the CEV Championship full time. He's on still Moto3, and he's on the Calix KTM. Is it the Calix KTM?
Yes. Okay. I believe it was, yes.
That's right then. Okay. I've written Calix KTM on the notes. Now I'm thinking but Calix are a chassis manufacturer. But I think that is right. I'm going to stick with it. We're going to hope it's right.
Go with it.
So he was a regular point scorer across the season and was troubling the top 10 by the end of the year. Overall, finished 16th with 32 points. And a lot of this, people are saying if he was, a foot shorter, he'd have been crushing it. But he was just too tall for Moto3 machinery. And this is something we've seen, haven't we? We see this in Moto3 as well. Someone like Bo Benschneider was way too tall for a Moto3 bike, and we've seen it over and over again. And people jump up into Moto2 and start to perform. And I think we can say Marini did that in 2015. He jumped up to the Moto2 Calix team in CEV once more. And it was with Pons Racing, but it didn't take the classic Pons Racing livery. He ended up with a almost VR46 livery. And I don't know, I did try and do some Googling here, and I couldn't get too far into it, but I think it's the first example of the VR46 Academy logo on a Moto2 machine.
Ooh, I never did. I didn't notice that. I did not notice that at all.
I think that's right. I can't promise you that it is. I did try and Google further, but I couldn't find an example of it earlier than this. So I think this is the one, but I might be wrong. If anyone out there is listening and you know that I'm wrong, or you want to tell me I'm correct, then join the Facebook group and you can do it there. So that's good.
Nice plug. I like that, Tim.
I'm going to be plugging this Facebook group for weeks, mate. Weeks. Even I'll be walking into Co-op and being like, have you heard of our Facebook group? So,
some woman going to be sat behind the counter in the shop going, who the fuck?
Well, they still don't really... I still get quite a frosty reception when I go to Co-op, like every now and again when I have to go. Yeah, but I'm on the Isle of Skye. We're quite far north in Scotland. There's travel lockdowns, but this is one of the most desirable holiday destinations in the UK. So as soon as someone hears an English accent, they assume you're on holiday. So I'm getting this quite a lot. And people are like, oh, are you on your holidays? And I'm like, no, I'm living here. And then they kind of give me the evil eye. And then we start talking politics. And then it's okay. I can make friends with people when I talk politics. So that's all good.
You just get your little pro-Scotland flag out. Yay!
That's it, exactly. I'm like, I support the SNP. And then it's very quick whether, at that point, 55% of the country are like, good man, you can stay. The other 45 are like, you need to fuck right off. So but it's 55%. So that's the majority. So that's the one I go for. And whether or not I support the SNP is irrelevant at this point. I'm not letting my political flag wave on the show. So,
where were we?
Luca Marini, CEV Moto2 with Pons Racing, first example of a VR46 logo on a Moto2 machine. Every race he finished in that 2015 season it was within the top 7. He scored 1 podium though, so he's kind of constantly troubling that the 4th to 7th place just throughout the season. Scored the 1 podium. It was an 11 race season, and he finished 5th overall with 115 points. But there were 2 non-scores included in that.
That's not bad at all. This bloke's already, a few seasons in. He's holding his head high, doing well.
It was his first season on a Moto2 bike. So
yes. I like over the career I sort of talk about. So he had a sort of fairly quick step up. But yeah, for a first season on a Moto2 bike, nothing wrong with that.
No, exactly. And he did also compete in the Misano Moto2 Grand Prix and finished 21st. And we know, especially in this kind of 2015 era, and Moto2 is a cutthroat championship anyway, Grand Prix level. And I think kind of 2015, it was almost at its best. The kind of 13, 14, 15 era was almost at its fiercest. Just finishing that race is a pretty good result, to be fair. Like he's 6 places away from the points. Like I'll take my hat off. Happy days. Well played.
Yeah, I would consider that a good day at work.
Exactly. So 2016 saw and this is kind of where he started to catch, I think, international attention. This is the first time I'd heard of him. In 2016, he moves to the Grand Prix Moto2 paddock with the Forward team, the Italian team, and they put him on a 2-year deal. His first season was crashy, I think you'd say.
It was crashy. Yeah, very crashy indeed. Sorry.
No, it's okay. We both at the same time there. He had 6 retirements across the season and also 6 points finishes. The rest were not non-scores, but they were outside of the points. He did score a 6th place in Germany. So, that's a flash of brilliance, I guess you'd say.
It's a flash in the pan. But for your first time out, not bad. But yeah, a crashy season. Which I don't know. I don't know if looking at it on paper, I don't know if it sort of disappoints me because up until this point he'd done really well. But at the same time, I'm thinking not bad. Okay, settle down. And you'll be fine.
Yeah, and we can say it disappoints, but I think we're saying that with hindsight. At the end of the day, he was still a Moto2 rookie. He hadn't come up from the standard Grand Prix Moto3 class, so he hadn't been racing the international field. Like, this was the first time he's racing the best of the best. And it's like we've discussed, you can crush everything up to a domestic level, then you get dumped into Moto3 normally, and you're like, whoa, these guys are fast. Luca Marini crushed, and didn't even crush everything at a domestic level, but did well at a domestic level, and then skipped the Moto3 learning curve. He was straight into the cutthroat Moto2 class. So you're already racing guys that have graduated from that Moto3 class, so they're already some of the fastest guys in the world, without a doubt. They've already faced off against the fastest kids in the world to move up to this level. So the fact he finished 23rd with 34 points isn't a bad result, I don't think.
No, that's quite a ruthless way of going about it. If you're going to miss out Moto3, you've got to have a lot of confidence in your ability. It's like you say, everyone comes through. 90% of people come through all 3 classes. Yeah, we've seen a couple jump a class or 2 or come in a bit later,
but not really in recent years, have we? I think Jack Miller was the last one that did a weird jump, but apart from that,
not really anything else. So if you're gonna miss that first rung on the ladder, you've got to make sure you have a good run up and get a good jump.
Yeah, exactly. Or you've got someone there to support you, which I guess he did, but he also was making a mark. It's not just Valentino's brother. At the time, I remember thinking, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, who's this guy? I didn't know a lot about the sport. I certainly wasn't as into the lower classes as I am now. I don't think I had the same respect and appreciation for the sport that I do now, and that was only 4 or 5 years ago. But I do remember watching him and thinking, fucking hell, because this is the first time they're like, oh, Valentino Rossi's brother, oh, this is exciting.
Yeah, I can remember that.
I do remember thinking, he's not that great. He's crashing a lot. I think he's a bit shit, and I honestly didn't think he'd make it any further. And I've put in the notes here, as you can see, Steve, makes me look like a twat.
Yes, I remember thinking very much the same things. Where's this guy come from? He's crashing everywhere. Everyone at this point, like you say, has started to realise who he is. It started to make the comparison, and all of a sudden he's come out and crashed like crazy, which is not a typical race style of his brother. He doesn't crash that often. And everyone had pretty much wrote him off from day one. Yeah, which pretty much fair. So I was really glad when he stuck around. But similar to you, I hadn't really taken that much interest in the lower classes at this point. I'd started to, but I hadn't devoted that much sort of attention to it. It was only the last couple of years I really started to take notice. But I can remember him having a crashy season back then. But I flicked off it straight away, and it was sort of gone out the grey matter.
Yeah.
But it was good that he hung around, because what he sort of goes on to do after this in the next couple of years is some really nice racing.
Yeah, exactly. So that brings us to 2017. He stays with the Forward team, who are now the Forward Racing team. Although we say this was a good season, he had 7 retirements and 2 did not starts throughout the year. And that really ruined what was a good season, because, well, what started off as a good season, the first 6 races, he had 5 point scoring finishes.
Yes.
And it was looking solid. And then in the following 12 races, he scored points twice.
Yeah.
So he kind of built a position, and just in the early races, and you wouldn't say even protected it at that point. He kind of just, those points kept him going. In the end, he finished 15th with 59 points. Did score a 4th place at Brno, though. So again, it was a flash of brilliance that was there. Those results that, I guess, as the casual fan, even 2016, 2017, I was still a casual Moto2 fan, not like now where I'm glued to it. And to a casual fan, you forget those flashes of brilliance. But I guess to those in the know, they were seeing this happen, and they were aware that, okay, he's not his brother, and he probably never will be his brother, but he's not a slow guy on 2 wheels. Like, he's a fast rider. It's one of those, isn't it, that you've just got to train him not to crash.
Yeah. This is the point when I was looking for the notes where I personally thought, like we said, the family influence, should we say, or lifeline was handed. Because you look at the 2 first seasons full time in the world stage in Moto2, and they're not that great. There's a lot of crashes, a lot of retirements, and suddenly, after 2 years with the same team, his contract's up, and this is where the help comes.
Yeah, because you would think most riders, wouldn't you, at that point, wouldn't get a ride. Well, they might get a ride the following year, but it's not going to be with a front-running team.
No. All of a sudden, this, I could be completely wrong, but the way I read it when we write our notes down that is how I interpret it. You've had a 2-year contract. That's coming to an end. You've not had 2 good years at all. Very crashy. A lot of problems. Haven't scored great points. Had the odd flash in the pan. 2-year contract isn't getting renewed. All of a sudden, along comes a helping hand, as we say, and we see 2018 appear, and all of a sudden he's on a Moto2 VR46 bike.
Exactly. So it was VR46's second year, wasn't it? The first year they'd had Bagnaia and... let's remember the fella's name. He's the one that Fanati pulled the brake lever for.
Antonelli?
No, not Antonelli. This is embarrassing. I should have looked this up. Fanati pulled his brake lever. Tall guy, Italian, was part of the VR46 Academy. Very frustrating, Steve.
I can picture him, and I can picture the move. I can picture the bike, the colour scheme, the lot. I cannot forget the guy's name.
Yeah, me too. Hang on, let's just do
type quicker than I
can.
Google. We're both typing at the same time.
Yeah, here we go. It is Stefano Manzi. There we go.
Manzi, there it is. He's now in Moto2.
He's still in Moto2, yeah. I think he might be on the MV Augusta. At least he was last year.
You could be right.
Where he's going, which is actually the Ford Racing MV Augusta. So they might have just swapped places.
I think they probably did. It's like, here you go, have a ride.
Yeah, because I think he was still in the VR46 Academy at the time as well.
Yes, yeah. I'm pretty sure you're right on that one.
But yes, like you were saying, I think it was perceived by a lot of people. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just me being a bit picky. I think it was a lot of fans kind of perceived this move to the VR46 squad as a last-ditch attempt. This was like his brother being like, "Fuck's sake, come on! I'll give you one shot. If you can't do it, there's nothing else I can do for you." So he moved to the VR46 squad. Teammate was Francesco Bagnaia, and Marini's season started off pretty slow. He scored 4 points finishes in the first 8 races, but then things really started to improve and they kind of snowballed for him. He scored 3 podiums on the bounce. following those first 8 races, and then he scored 2 more before the season was out. One of those was actually a win at Malaysia. He managed to kind of drag himself up to 7th in the standings, 147 points. Great improvement throughout the years. The downside for him that season was that Bagnaia, his teammate, managed to win the title with 306 points, won 8 races and 4 more podiums on the way.
Yeah, that was really the only fly in the ointment, wasn't it? Just your annoying teammate.
Although arguably, I guess that the VR46 squad, haven't they? They've already, because they train together, they live together, they work very well on track together, and that was very much shown last year as well, wasn't it? With Marini and not Bastianini, Bezzecchi. It showed that they work very well on track together, and I think this year, the 2018 year, was the year that relationship really worked for them, because I don't think Marini would be where he was now if he hadn't have been Bagnaia's teammate, if he wasn't seeing Bagnaia's data, if Bagnaia wasn't helping him reach the next level. I think that this year was pivotal in making him the rider he is now.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like you said, it's such a close-knit little group there. You put 2 academy riders in the same team, and you've got a marriage made in heaven.
Exactly.
All run from this tight-knit little base camp on a ranch where they all train. They're all very cliquey, should we say? It's almost like a clique. What dreams are made of.
That's it, and that's kind of part of the reason I can't wait to see the Morbidelli-Rossi combo in MotoGP next year, or this year.
Yes. This year, yes. Yeah, it's not far away. We're another week closer.
I know, it's getting close now, man. I cannot wait.
What have we got now? We've got 5 weeks till race.
I'm not sure it's even 5 weeks, is it? We'll check after we've done recording.
Yeah, it is getting seriously close. And we've got testing before that as well. So we're only a few weeks away from that. Ooh.
That's it. So 2019 saw Bagnaia move up to MotoGP. Leaving Marini to spearhead the Moto2 effort. We kind of expected this to be his breakout year, didn't we? Like he'd done well the year before. He'd done well in 2018. He'd taken another step. I mean, if we go back and look through his Moto2 career and his finishes, he had finished 23rd in 2016. In 2017, he moved on to finish, I thought I could find it quickly then, but I didn't. Finish 15th. 2018, he took another step and he finished 7th. And he'd won races that year. So we're expecting 2019 is the year he's going to win more races. He's going to get up there. He's going to be fighting for the title. But they didn't really work out that way. Yeah, it was his most consistent year. He only had 2 DNFs across the year, which was quite big for him. I think he took a big step in being able to keep it rubber side down.
Yeah, that is a huge leap in itself. Just keeping the thing on track and finishing the races. Doesn't even matter if you finish lower in the points. Just bring it home. Don't bin the thing 6-7 races in a year, cost your team thousands and thousands of pounds in repair bills. Keep it rubber side down. Keep that consistency, because even if your contract's coming to the end of its life and you've not done that well, if people can look at a piece of paper and go, right, he doesn't crash, he can finish consistently, that's far better than looking at a piece of paper and saying, Christ, this guy bins it every other race.
That's it. And arguably, if you say it just cost him money doing that, but you're costing yourself points, aren't you? If you can finish 15th in 7 races rather than crash, you're going to score 7 more points in the championship. 7 points may not seem like a lot, but 7 points can win or lose a championship. And even more so when you get down to the lower, the 10th to 20th place, 7 points is a big chunk of points across a year. Like that could be the difference between 19th and 12th. Like it's a big chunk of points.
Yeah. That is potentially 7 places higher in the championship.
Exactly.
That's a huge leap, a massive leap. And like you say, when you start getting down to the lower end of the table, all the points you can get matter. So a big, big leap. Doesn't matter if it's not setting the world on fire. He's made a huge step up. Yeah. Just keeping the rubber side down.
That's it, exactly. So he took 4 podiums across the year. All of them were in the latter half of the year, but 2 of them were wins. Yeah. So 50% of the podiums were wins. So that's a good chunk of points. And he did finish the season 6th on 190 points. So it's still a step forward. It's still,
Exactly.
43 points further and a whole place further than the year before. So he's still making the progression. Like it's taken a while. And it's almost like, and actually this is an interesting point, is we all criticised Alex Marquez for being a real slow burn in Moto2. He took a long time to win the title. Luca Marini is no different. He was in Moto2 for a long time before he became a title challenger. It's that slow burn. And maybe this is a thing we're kind of ignoring in motorcycle racing recently, is we're just paying attention to the Marc Marquezes, to the Johan Meers, to the guys that can come in, smash it, do it early, move on. We're not giving time to those, and clearly we are giving them some time, but we're slating them in the media for doing so. Like for taking 3 or 4 years to win in one of the most competitive classes in the world. And we're all sitting here on our sofas like, well, it's taken 4 years to win in Moto2. Moto2 is one of the hardest things you could ever try and win in your life. It takes you 4 years. It takes you 4 fucking years. At least you can do it. Like, we're very critical. But these slow burn riders are making it through, and they are making it to MotoGP. So maybe we need to pay more attention to them.
I think in recent years we've got used to a bit of a smash and grab, haven't we? Look at Marquez, what he did in Moto2, and then suddenly makes that step up to MotoGP, and it's just phenomenal. He's on another page. We've seen that for a lot of the classes, and when someone like Marquez steps up onto the big stage and sets the world on fire, they set a benchmark for everyone else to follow. It doesn't matter if it's in the same class or not. They set the precedent, which then becomes the standard and the norm, and everyone else is expected to meet that same standard.
Yeah.
And when they don't, they get criticised for it, which isn't fair. People learn at different rates. I learn pretty slow. It takes me a little while of looking at things to work it out. Some things I can work out better and quicker. But these guys, like you say, really aren't given the chance. It's like, come in, do it, or leave it. And we see now a few people come in, take their time, go about their business, learn, develop, move on. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's just all of a sudden, we live in an unfortunate era where we've got a few people who are just phenomenal and set that bar very high.
And I think it's sort of always been that way, hasn't it? But it's more obvious now, because even if you go back to like the Danny Pedrosa, Jorge Lorenzo era, like Jorge Lorenzo was amazing in his first season, but very, very crashy. So maybe the point is that these guys who are super fast, and Marc Marquez, I guess, he's always been quite crashy, but never crashed in races too much, aside from 2015 and, that fateful crash in 2020. But he's very crashy in practice, but maybe it's better to let these guys get the crashiness out in Moto3, in Moto2, and then when they come to MotoGP, they're kind of the complete package. They've just got, they'll still have stuff to learn, but not as much stuff to learn. And we saw it with Jack Miller. Jack Miller jumped from Moto3, where he was quite crashy, but a championship contender, and he appeared in MotoGP. And I mean, it's taken him, 6 years to get on a factory machine? And most people's MotoGP career isn't 6 years. He's lucky that he's good enough that people have been able to spot that and be like, give him time, he'll grow. Because he didn't have that time in the lower classes. Maybe it's better to let the guys do the Luca Marini, the Alex Marquez, grow in the lower classes. And then when they appear in MotoGP, they do an Alex Marquez. It only takes them half a season to get on the podium.
Yeah, that's a good point. Really good point. And like talking about people crashing on like free practice and qualifying, we see it very much in Marquez. He goes straight out and pushes it to the limit, which is a tactic. Push it to the limit. Find where the limit is on every single corner. Remember it. Jot it down. If you come out, and riders do this style of tactic as well. They come out and they start slowly and they progressively build up to Sunday. That's okay. That's an absolutely plausible and doable scenario, but you don't find that limit until Sunday. Marquez comes out and he almost goes the other way. He comes out, hits it hard Friday, crashes a lot, doesn't crash so much Saturday, and he's got all of his crashes out of him by Sunday. And he knows the limit on every single corner and knows what he can do. He's got his race set up. It's the yin and the yang. It depends how you want to play it. Personally, I'd rather be a Marquez. And find out my limit beforehand and not jeopardize my race. But
it's interesting, isn't it? Because that kind of makes a good point, and you're saying like find your limit before the race because that's the best way to do it. That's a technique that's only worked in the last 5 years, 5, 6,
oh god,
7
yeah,
years of MotoGP because the crash protection has been there. Like we've got airbags, the leathers are great, your helmets are great, your boots, all your safety gear is amazing now. The tracks are safer now than they've ever been. So this is a strategy that works now. It never used to work. But I think if it was me, I'd like to think I'd come at it as this kind of balls to the wall, let's go Marquez character. But I know myself well enough to know I'm not that kind of guy. And I don't know people well enough. That's a ridiculous thing to say. But I think most people would be closer to the let's try not to crash and just see how far we can get. Oh, the back slipped out a little way. Pull it back. We know where it's going to slide. We'll keep it there. Whereas Marquez will push it further, and it's arguably the faster way of doing it, but it goes against human psychology, I think. Human psychology says, keep it safe, stay on 2 wheels, go as fast as you can on 2 wheels, but you never lose the 2 wheels. They're the important thing.
I think you have got to have a couple of screws loose to ride the way he does.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some sort of wiggly moments on the road, and your first instinct is to back it off and shit yourself.
Yeah.
Not pin it and see how far you can launch yourself. Obviously, road riding is completely different to track. He's got full airbag suits and no trees to hit or Mrs. Jones's car. It's a different ball game.
But it's still the psychology of it, isn't it? It doesn't matter whether you're riding on the road at 70 miles an hour or you're riding at a track at 160 miles an hour. The ground, when you look at it, is going fucking quickly, and your instinct is do not hit that ground. I remember seeing an interview with, I think it was John McGuinness, and it was about the Isle of Man TT, and it's as they come over, is it Bray Hill, where they get air every time? And he's saying on that, like, sometimes you get mega, like, tank slapper, and he's like, you fix it by keeping it pinned and keeping your weight down. He's like, if you let go, you're going to crash. He's like, you've got to keep it pinned. And that is something that it must take a really, really long time to adjust in your mind. To like, the bike's going, you and I think 99% of people who have ever ridden a motorbike, if not more, will go, oh, the rear's going, let it off, pull the clutch in, maybe just drop the throttle, like just let it slow, it'll bring itself back. The guys that are amazing and the guys that are the fastest guys in the world are the guys that go, we could do that, but the best way to deal with this is to keep it pinned, keep your weight down, and you're still going to get your lap time, and you're definitely not going to crash.
Not good. Not a good way of thinking, but a way of surviving.
Anyway, we went quite off topic there, I think. So let's bring it back.
We did go a little bit. I've completely forgotten where we were.
We were on. We'd covered 2019. You finished 6th with 190 points. It was another step forward. So we bring it to last year now. We called it 2020, year of the COVID. Year 1 of the COVID.
The COVID connection.
The COVID. That would be a great band name, Steve. You could start a really good rap metal band called the COVID Connection. You'd be a bit Papa Roach, a bit like Linkin Park, a bit of Limp Bizkit thrown in there. That'd be great. The COVID Connection. I'd enjoy that. Not relevant though. So, 2020.
If we see a band pop up next year called the COVID Connection, I'm gonna be.
We'll be demanding royalties our way.
Bloody will. I pinned that first.
Anyway, 2020. So this was kind of the breakout year we expected. That 2019 was going to be for Marini. He was doing good. He looked on for the title, to be fair. For the first 9 races, he scored 3 wins and 2 further podiums. He was leading the title. Everything looked rosy. It was looking good. You're like, like Mini Marquez has done it. Now we're going to see Mini Rossi do it. This is mental. And then Le Mans happened, and that big crash.
That was a biggie. Ended up damaging his ankle, didn't he? That is essentially what put pay to it, without a shadow of a doubt. If he hadn't had that incident, he would have gone on to win the title. I'm sure of it.
I'm certain of it. Yeah, I'm with you. I think if it wasn't for that crash, and that was during qualifying, it was wet, big high side, smashed his ankle up. He did come back and finish that race. Well, he raced that race. He finished 17th. And it was actually his first non-top 10 finish of the season. He had crashed in the first race of the year at Qatar, which I guess he's looking back at now like, fuck, if I'd have just scored, 9 points. If I'd have scored in the top 4 or 5, I'd have won. So that's pretty annoying, actually. I hadn't thought about that. That's infuriating.
Yeah. If you start looking at it that way, and you start looking back in hindsight what you could have done, and then this happens, you get this crash come in, and you're just like, shit, if only.
This is why I could never be a professional racer, because I would have spent the whole time looking back at the scoreboard like, fuck, why did I crash it then? Why did I put it in the gravel then? Why did I do this? If I'd have just got one place higher then, I could have won. There's so many scenarios that you could still have won, but they didn't play out.
No, you didn't win it. And this is what motorcycle riders are pretty good at. Some of them is leaving it in the past and moving on to next week.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you said, you've got to have that mental strength to just push through. You've got to pin it to get through it.
Yeah, that's it. You've got to pin it to get through it. That's a great slogan. You've got to pin it to get through it. Maybe I'll throw that in at the rest of the slogans at the end of the show.
Do it.
So Marini wouldn't discover his form again until the end of the season. It was only 5 rounds later, to be fair. But it took him, though, until Portimao to score another podium, and he scored 2nd place there.
Definitely. I forgot about that, actually. Read that in the notes earlier. I forgot how long it actually took him to build his steam back up.
Yeah, because he looked dead set, didn't he? And I guess if it was like Bastianini had been pretty consistent all year, Sam Lowes went on that tear and scored just 3 on the bounce and just took 75 points like that, which put him in the championship fight. And this was all at the point where Marini was suffering and recovering from this injury, so everyone else could take advantage of the scenario.
Yeah, I've forgotten all about that, and then I read it in your notes. I was like, shit, yeah, it was such a not for Marini, but for a championship point of view and for viewing pleasure. It was such a good few races in the year because they're all going on. Yeah, Marini suffering, people closing up the gap, like you say, Sam Lowes, Ryder's name who won the championship, Bastianini, and that's it as well. All just. But
even Bezzecchi, you're right. Bezzecchi went on a tear as well, and Bezzecchi won a race. Like Bezzecchi arguably could have won the championship if he hadn't crashed out one of the races. Sam Lowes won. Like it was. Moto2 was a really good season last year.
It was. If we'd had a couple more races, it would have been so good. It was so good anyway. But like all 3 championships last year were just incredible.
Yeah.
Moto2, I think, was probably the best.
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to say MotoGP wasn't the best. It's one of the rare years where you'd be like, MotoGP could have been the best championship across it. Because I think actually even all 3 of them were great. They were really good. Even Moto E was quite fun. But MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3 were really, really good championships.
They were. We've not had across the board a season like this in a long time.
No, that's fair.
Normally we get a runaway winner, either it's the Marquez or one of the Moto2 boys, Moto3 boys will go on a tear and pull out a big lead, and they've wrapped it up 2 or 3 rounds early. We don't see championships like this every year.
No, we certainly don't.
Bloody wish we did, because it would be epic. We'd be coming to the end of the year absolutely exhausted through watching them. God knows what they must think.
Yeah,
our last podcast would be like, fuck it, we're having a 6-month break.
I think our last podcast of this year was very similar, or of last season was very much like that. I'm pretty certain I was saying I'm ready for a break now. I could do with a week or 2 to chill.
I think we didn't give ourselves a break, did we? We kept recording. But I can remember being really, really burnt out because there was just so much going on. And I remember pinging you so many texts. I was trying to remember everything that had gone on across all 3 races. And it was actually, I don't know how anyone else who produces MotoGP podcast felt, but I felt there was so much going on. I couldn't contain it all. I kept forgetting stuff and get stuff mixed up because there was too much to remember. Yeah. And I'm not one to write massive scripted notes down. We just fly off the hip. And when it came to remembering individual snippets of information, it took me longer to remember it than it ever has done before, just because there was such volume of it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think, but if we felt like that, And bearing in mind, we are just kind of enthusiasts. We love motorbike racing. We watch motorbike racing, and we love talking about it. And we thought we'd just try and record our conversations and see what happens. But imagine if you worked as a profession within the media doing this, and they must be really burnt out. And then take it one step further. Imagine if you work within a team or as a fucking rider in this season. Like, you must be fucked by the end of the year. Like, I don't think you and I can even imagine how knackered these guys must be by not only the rider, the entire crew, the entire team must be fucked by the end of this year, surely.
I'm sure last year, every single team member, team rider, person involved in that paddock, come Portimao, was ready just to go home. You know, it was such a compact, awkward little year with COVID, travel restrictions, quarantines, COVID testing was coming out, you know, isolation for getting to rounds, border crossings. Imagine being someone in logistics who's got to move everyone. Headache. I reckon, I don't know how many people are, but I reckon half the paddock must have taken up smoking. The other half probably ended the season with an alcohol problem. You know, probably popping pills as a coping mechanism. I would have been doing all three. You're like, fuck, we've got to be where next week? Where is the Valium?
Yeah, exactly. That's me on a normal week, man. Imagine put me in that stressful scenario of being like in the MotoGP paddock.
I last year more than ever, I really, really wish we had access to the paddock when there. Because you know, every year we say this, love to be in the paddock, love to be in the paddock. But last year was such a phenomenally crazy year that we are going to see again this year. I'm sure of it. You know, a normal year, I'm sure would be quite relaxed. But can you imagine the tension in the paddock of a new face turning up on a race weekend? You've got in, everyone's got you checked, but you've got that paranoia in the air over COVID. You know, add that into the mix. No one wants to be near you. You're a reporter. You want an interview, and all of a sudden you've got all this shit to deal with.
Yeah, and you've never worked in a scenario like this before, so the whole thing's new. It's like, I just can't even imagine being there, man. It must have been weird for everyone involved.
Hats off to him. You all did a fantastic job. Thank you for the entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the season in Moto2 ended with Luca Marini finishing second place overall. He scored 196 points, which was exactly the same points tally as Sam Lowe's. So we go count back. Shit, they had the same amount of wins. Great, what a fucking season. It came down to second places, Steve. Second places. How good is that? And Luca Marini had scored more second places than Sam Lowe's. And in the end, he was only 9 points shy of Bastianini for the title. Wow.
That's close. You know, we've seen closer in the past, not very often. But you know, the way that season ended was just dramatic, enthralling, satisfying, and heartbreaking all at the same time.
That is a great description of it, Steve. I cannot put it better, so I'm just going to move on to 2021 because I think you've summed it up beautifully.
Thank you.
2021, we see Luca Marini moving to the VR46 Avintia Ducati bike. It's with the Avintia squad. Confusing here. It's with the Avintia squad, yet he's being paid by Ducati because he's on a Ducati contract, yet sponsored by the VR46 Academy. So he's on a VR46 liveried bike. Who knows what the fuck is going on with this team? I do not, Steve. I don't know if you do. I don't think anyone does. Clue. I don't think Luca knows. I think it's all made up. Valentino Rossi might literally be the only person that knows what the fuck is going on with his brother's contract.
I really don't know. And as you heard earlier in the show, I was getting confused by riders, what bikes they're on. That's going to happen a lot this year, so I'm going to apologise for that already. That's going to happen a lot. I'm going to get some notes and some pictures put in front of me so I know who's who.
We'll order you a canvas with everyone
I'm
like
gonna
named
have
and
to.
arrows. It'll be like a 12-foot long canvas so we can get some light script on there and we'll be writing notes on it as well.
Something's going to have to happen because I'm going to get wrong. I was looking in here the other day where I sit. We record this podcast is in my like extension conservatory bit, and there's a very convenient flat wall opposite me. And I thought, right, I could get some pictures up there because really it's only this Avintia Esperama whatever team.
One day you'll learn to say this name properly as well.
I know, Esponsorama.
There we go, nailed it. It's only taken an hour and a half of recording tonight, but we got there in the end.
I can say it properly, I just don't because it annoys the hell out of me. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to get some pictures put up there. I'm going to have Luca over there, Bastianini there, somebody else there in all their glory, and it will just have the titles of where they race and who they work for, and I'm not going to get it wrong. Ish.
I cannot wait until I can finally come to your house again, Steve, and see these full-size, like, cardboard cutouts of, like, all the riders.
They wouldn't last long, because let's face it, the boys would draw over them. Sarah would probably just spend the entire time looking at whoever.
I'll be in there just sneaking Morbidelli out for later.
I was then going to say Frankie. Frankie would disappear. Like, where the fuck's Frankie gone? Damn.
Exactly. So, who do you reckon, Steve, out of Bastianini and Luca Marini here? They're both on year-old Ducati, so it's quite hard to compare what they're going to do compared to Jorge Martin, who is obviously the other rookie for the year. But out of the two of them here, they're in the same team. They are on the same bike. They're both on year-old Ducatis. They've just got different liveries.
Right.
What's your prediction for performance? I know we're going to do a prediction show before the end of the year, but just fire away one name, no explanation at all. Who's going to finish further ahead, Marini or Bastianini?
Bastianini.
Oof. I'm going Marini on that front,
Ooh.
but we'll have that discussion in our prediction show.
They're similar. They're very. Look at last season. They're very similar. Oh no! Wait.
I was like, I'm sure we just said we weren't going to do this, and here we are doing it. I'm very confused.
I just saw your hand come up in the screen. I was like, oh shit, yeah.
And I think that's pretty much the end of the show, Steve. There's a couple of bits to go on and chat about, because we haven't spoken for long enough tonight, and I'm sure those of you listening aren't quite bored of us yet. I would be bored of me now, but
I'm sure everyone gets bored of us. They just put up with us because they're dedicated.
I think the only person that doesn't get bored of us might be me when I'm a bit drunk. I think that's a lot of my problem in life, Steve, is I get a bit drunk and I think everyone wants to listen to me talk, when in reality they really don't. And I know it, and I'm announcing it, and I can't help but continue. It's an affliction. What can I say?
People listen. A small minority of the world's population listen to us rabbit on about a passion, life in general, our tangents, me getting riders' names confused.
Yeah, we'll see how many people get through that part of the early phase of the podcast. They were like, not listen to these guys. They ain't got a fucking clue.
Yeah, who is he on about? I ain't got a fucking clue. Make it to the end. What we should probably have is like timestamps in the description. And the first bit of this show would like, Steve gets it wrong, Steve gets it wrong, Steve gets it wrong, Steve gets it wrong, Steve gets it wrong. And then I
think I could do that. It's just a lot of effort, and I'm not going to.
No, I've looked at how you put timestamps in, and it is a bit of effort.
Yeah.
Because then you've got to have individual descriptions on what each timestamp piece is. And
Yeah, I think we can do it reasonably simply, to be fair. I don't think it's too much work, but it's also more work than I'm going to put in, so we're not going to worry about that. Right. So continuing anyway, Steve, last week we had a discussion briefly about how much younger the grid is now than it was 20 years ago. So I went in and did a bit of a maths here, and I added up some ages and did some division and worked out some averages. And my mind was blown, Steve. I've already sent you the notes, annoyingly, so you can see the numbers in front of you. But in 2001, the average age of the grid was 24.4 years old. In 2021, the average age of the grid is 26.3 years old. Even if you remove Valentino Rossi, the great-grandfather at this point compared to the rest of them, the average age only drops down to 25.6. So we were banging on about how much younger the grid must be now. It's actually 2 years older. Even without Valentino Rossi, it's still a year and a bit older than the grid was in 2001, which really blew my mind. And I did the math twice because I did not quite believe what I was working out.
I saw this bit in your notes, and I was like, this can't be right. This cannot be right, because these guys have got to be far younger. And then I also did a little bit of research on it when you sent it to me earlier, a very quick bit. And yeah, you are damn right. I cannot believe it. We look at some of these babyface characters coming through, and it's like, you're so young.
Yeah. You're
so young. My theorem, I come up with a little theorem, is the average age, like say 2001, 24 years old. Right? They didn't hang around long.
Yeah, I was wondering about this. I wonder if you're right, and this thought had crossed my mind too, and I was, can I be fucked? No, I really can't. But it would be interesting to go back and see whether the longevity of career has changed over each season. So in 2001 was an average career only 5 years, whereas now is it 8 years or something? Yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly my train of thought as well. Back in the day, should we say, the careers weren't quite as long, or you moved on and you were replaced quicker. Now, you look at Rossi's career, he's been around forever. Longevity seems to be the key. There are the odd, and no doubt will have been the odd exception in the past, but the majority of the grids, if you went back and looked at team changes, people who came and went out of the MotoGP in the past, I'm sure the numbers would be very different to what they are today. That's my theory.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm with you on that one, I think. So let's continue. I've got we had another question email from Edward again.
We did.
And Edward actually made a really good point. This was back onto the Suzuki VR46 rumours. And this is something I hadn't actually considered, but he was asking what we thought about the fact that whether the Suzuki VR46 deal is already done, or at least looking very likely, because Rossi wasn't allowed to take his crew with him to the Sepang Racing team, the Petronas team. No. And Rossi has always had a lot of power to move his crew around with him. Where he went, he took his crew. But he wasn't allowed to do that this time.
No.
And I mean, the public message, and this is a message I got behind initially, was, is that just because the Petronas squad don't want to be pushed around by Rossi? They're a new team. They've won a shitload of races. They've had Quattararo. They've got Morbidelli. They're doing good. They don't want to be pushed around by Rossi. So they want to keep their guys. They don't want to lay their guys off. And that is the kind of the rhetoric I got behind. That made a lot of sense to me. But what Edward said was that maybe Yamaha know that Valentino and the VR46 squad are going to be running factory Suzukis in the next year or two. Maybe Yamaha don't want Rossi's crew to know what the latest Yamaha is. Maybe they don't want Rossi's crew to be able to take the information from the latest Yamaha in a year or two over to a satellite Suzuki squad. And I hadn't thought of this at all. But the more I think about it, the more I think Edward might be onto something here.
I think he could be as well. It's a few years ahead, should we say, and in thinking. I think you could have hit something on the head here. I think you could be aiming towards that nail, because it all does kind of slot into place. We see it in sports where people will snap up the best rider as a second rider just to stop another team from having it. This does make a lot of sense, and I'm wondering if that is almost absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if things have been spoken about, and Yamaha actually know what the future is going to hold. It's only a couple of years away. It's not that far away. And it would be perfectly plausible that they would not want the VR46 guys to be able to take that latest information away. You want every advantage you can get in this sport. And if you know you can get a little bit ahead by doing a certain thing, do it. And they will do it.
Yeah.
And like you say, Rossi's always had a lot of power. And when he moved to Ducati, we saw Burgess go with him. A lot of his mechanics went with him and then followed him back to Yamaha as well. It's a very unusual move for Rossi not to take all his guys with him. And when it came to Rossi signing for Petronas, there was a big delay with contracts. And we said a lot of it, we were told a lot of it was over Rossi not being able to take his people with him, which would tie in with this Suzuki VR46 idea of them not taking the latest information with him. So I am on Edward's side here. I think he's got something.
Yeah. I don't think this is a bad theory to have at all. I'm kind of coming down on the fence. I don't really know one way or the other, because I was very behind the idea that Petronas just didn't want to be pushed around. I was very behind the idea that this was just Rossi. And a very obvious sign that Rossi had just lost the power that he had 4 or 5 years ago in the paddock. But I hadn't even considered the options that Edward has voiced here. So
no, they're really good. Really good points.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess it's a wait and see. I think we'll find out sooner rather than later. I think we're going to know what's happening with VR46. We're going to know what's happening with the Suzuki Satellite Squad by the summer break, I imagine.
Yeah, I think so. I did wonder as well whether this Marini VR46 Ducati is a little bit of dipping your big toe in the North Sea, which is pretty damn cold, and just seeing what happens.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
Suzuki.
the Italian Dream Team Part 2, isn't it? They tried
Yeah.
once, they fucked it. Let's see if we can do it again.
Yeah, now you've produced a better bike. Let's see what happens here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Suzuki desperately need a satellite team.
But do they? They won the title. They came first and third without one.
I know, but they could also be
First and second,
third, and fourth.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
You know, why not? Why not? It's a really tough one. I'd love to see some 4 Suzukis on the grids. And can you imagine the power deals? Suzuki with a VR46 backed team.
Well, quite. It will certainly be something fun to see. And I think we'll know soon enough, won't we?
I
It's not
think
going to be
we'll know.
long until we find out.
I think we'll know by the end of next year.
Oh, it'll be way before the end of next year. I think we'll know by the summer break.
You reckon?
Yeah. Well, because it will be next year that these things are going to be happening, won't it?
Oh, of course it will. Yeah. Of course it will. Didn't think of that. Ooh, something to think about. All the good things to look forward to.
Exactly. Edward also shared. I couldn't not put this in, Steve, because this blew my mind. Edward also shared with us a picture of the lorry he drives around, which might be one of the biggest things I've literally ever seen in my life. I cannot wrap my head around how anyone can possibly drive one of these road trains. It's longer than my house, like
It's
easily longer than any house I've ever lived in. I just cannot wrap my head around. I can't even drive with. I was driving a ride on a lawnmower the other day with a trailer because I've never driven with a trailer before, and I thought it was a fun place to learn. So I was trying to do my reversing manoeuvres, trying to get it around the trees, having a bit of fun in the garden. Nah, couldn't do it for shit. And then I go onto Facebook and see that Edward has shared with us this picture of this lorry with 3 other lorry trailers on the back of it. I'm like, well, he makes me look
insane. We get these kind of things on the Discovery Channel, Ed. Honestly, Outback Truckers or whatever it is, and there's you hauling one. We see this shit on the telly. Didn't expect to meet someone who actually drives one. And
I feel a little fanboy.
yeah. I always watch Deadliest Catch, but I'm now downloading Outback Truckers again. It was nuts, absolutely insane. I picture Aussie trucks as one of those flatback. What do they call them?
The Utes.
That's it, Utes, pickups, not a 4 or 5 trailer, bloody insanely long cruiser.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it kind of blew my mind a little bit.
As well.
What else do we have? Steve, did you see my thing? I shared this in the Facebook group, guys, so if you get in there, you'll see it. I'm really plugging this, man. Did you see the Motobot thing that I shared in there?
Yes, I'd seen something about that not so long ago, but I never did have time to properly sort of look into it. Then you shared it, and I was just like, Jesus, a little bit scary.
Mate, it's not long, is it? Valentino Rossi's acting needs some work. Let's just put that out there. Stick to the motorbike racing, because acting is not for him. But the idea that kind of fucking robot can just be dropped onto any motorbike and go, that's scary. And that thing will, within the next 3 or 4 years, be lapping faster than Valentino Rossi. I have no doubt. Wow. It blew my mind.
Yeah. Tim will back me up on this. I'm a bit of a technophobe. I like carburetors over fuel injection. Seeing that actually scares me a little bit.
It's going all Skynet on us.
It is going all Skynet on us. We put you and Crutchlow together and we've got a T1000.
Exactly. Then throw Motobot into the mix. Maybe Motobot is Crutchlow for the next Yamaha test rider role.
It might be. When he left LCR, they just peeled the skin off him. Grim. Sorry, Crutchlow. That kind of thing does scare me a little bit. It's interesting to see where technology's going, but just the thought, like you say, that could be dropped on any motorcycle and it can just do it.
It's amazing. Part of me watches it in this, oh my God, this is amazing. I cannot believe this robot can ride a normal, I say a normal, it's an R1M, it's still a top spec bike, but a normal bike, a road going bike, it can just be dropped on, bolted on, good to go, nothing else. And it blows my mind that it can do it, it can ride it. And I think it's amazing. I think it's such a feat of technology. And then I go, oh my God, robots are going to kill us all.
Yeah, literally. I do exactly the same thing. The first time I saw that, the first thing that pops up into my head was the Robo Terminators in Terminator Salvation.
Okay, it's been a very long time since the first time I watched Terminator Salvation, which was the last time I watched Terminator Salvation.
Anywho, motorcycle Terminators with guns.
Okay, that's my kind of Terminator.
Yeah, but scary.
Yeah, that's fair. And it is. It's one of those things. It's amazing. It's certainly worth a watch. If you're not going to join the Facebook group, plug that again, then just Google Yamaha's Motobot. You'll find the videos. It's astounding what they've been able to do. And I think it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah. I loathe the day that we get one on the grid.
It'll be a weird series, I think. I imagine there will be, because there was always talk of Robo Race, which was going to be a support race for Formula E. Which was cars, and maybe that will happen in the next 10 years. I don't think robot motorcycle races are more than 20 years away. Whether or not they'll ever compete with humans, I don't think that's ever going to happen, because I think by the time they're fast enough to compete with humans, they're going to be way, way better than humans. But I think it will be an interesting thing. You'll see different groups of coders and programmers. It will be like the Yamaha programmers against the Honda programmers, and it'll be a fun thing going on. I think it will be good.
Right, the Code X Showdown, should we call that?
It will be something like, Moto Code.
Oh, scary as hell. Don't like it. Stop it.
Yes, that's fair enough. We'll stop it. Steve, it's been long enough. Let's just stop it, shall we? We'll stop the show today. We've dragged it on. I need a wee. So let's kill it there. If you guys have got anything at all you want to share with us and you don't want to join the Facebook group to do so, which does upset me, but it's your choice, guys. It's your life. You do what you like with it. So if you don't want to join us there, but you still want things to share with us, you can find us on...
We are on Facebook. We have a page and a group, new group, if you haven't heard. Come and join. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter. We are For the Love of MotoGP, or drop us an email at fortheloveofmotogp.com.
At Gmail.
That's shit.
That's the first time you nailed this for so many weeks in a row. I almost stopped listening while you're doing the spiel because I'm like, he's got it. I know. I don't have to worry about it. But that time you missed it, Steve. It's fortheloveofmotogp at gmail.com.
That's because I didn't do it in the right order. I wanted to get my plug in for the Facebook group. Destination fucked.
So close.
Next week, I'm having it.
Next week, you'll nail it, mate. No doubt. And guys, do us a solid. Leave us a review, please. That would be great. And we will stop taking up any more of your time. So thank you very much, guys. We've just discussed I had another little tag to add to the outro, and I can't remember what it was. Do you remember what it was, Steve?
Nope.
No. So we'll go with the usual, guys. Stay safe. Look after each other. Elbow bumps. Fist bumps. And remember... mask it or casket, guys. Look after each other. We'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.
Music is by Andrew Greenwood. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.